like yesterday. It was the summer of 2005, and I was a rookie park ranger at Deep Pine Station, my first solo assignment. The station sat at the edge of an ancient pine grove beside a silent lake, far from any town. When I arrived, the only sounds were the gentle hum of the forest, squirrels chattering in the distance, wind whispering through the needles, and the soft sigh of water lapping on the rocks. By day, I patrolled the trails. By dusk, I sat on the creaking porch with a mug of tea. The old cedar cabin smelled of pine and resin and damp earth. I slept in a small bunk inside, curtains drawn tight, letting the quiet of the night rock me to sleep. I kept a routine. Every morning I brewed strong, black tea on the camp stove. The kettle's faint whistle filled the kitchen with a comforting warmth. I turned on the radio for weather updates, but most of the time all I got was static or distant wildlife chatter. The world outside felt peaceful, almost benign. At dusk, the whole forest would be bathed in golden light, and the scent of rain on pine needles was heavy in the air. There were old stories about deep pines. Off-duty rangers sometimes spoke in hushed tones around a campfire. A hiker who vanished in '92, or a foreman who never returned from a winter patrol. It all felt like folklore to me. I'd always nodded along, tucked those tales into the back of my mind. Then came the morning of August 14th, 2005, when my routine quietly slipped into something far darker. I woke before dawn to brew the first pot of tea. Ranger David Miller, my partner, was already stirring on the other side of the tiny kitchen. David had been a seasonal ranger here for years. I was the newcomer. I poured 2 cups of steaming tea. He was pouring his own when he suddenly spoke without looking up. Did you feel that cold spot by the old trail sign last night? My spine tingled. Yes, I had. We had both walked past that weathered wooden sign pointing to Rivenwood Trail and felt the air drop as if someone had walked by. Yeah, I heard something, I said quietly. Around midnight, when the wind changed, it felt like a breath. But there was nobody there. The radio on the counter crackled faintly at that moment, and the lights flickered. David nodded. We're not always alone. Out here, he murmured. Folks say the woods remember. Just be careful tonight, okay? He spun the radio dial with a casual hand. I said, probably just the wind or an animal, though I didn't really believe it. Later that morning, we hiked Rivenwood Trail. Sunshine filtered through the tall pines, warm on our necks. We paused at midday to eat lunch on a fallen log. I peeled an orange, its sticky citrus scent mixed with the earthy smell of moss and fallen needles. Birds fitted through the branches above, going about their day. The afternoon passed peacefully with nothing more than a curious squirrel darting through the ferns. By mid-afternoon, dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. We arrived back at the station just before a sudden downpour. Inside, I set 2 steaming mugs of tea on the table while David dried off by the fireplace. Outside, the wind was picking up, rattling the shutters. We lit the lantern and sat by the wood stove, the flames casting flickering orange light on the log walls. Over the clink of spoons in our cups, David asked in a low voice, "Have you ever heard that over the lake at night?" I nearly choked on my tea. "No," I replied. He lowered his voice, almost to a whisper. "Some people here say late at night they hear a low humming or singing from the direction of the water, like voices, like something deep and slow." I stared into the fire. Its warmth felt comforting against the chill. When I finally replied, I said, "It's just campfire tales," though I didn't fully believe it. He seemed satisfied and poured me another cup. At around midnight, the storm was in full force. Rain hammered the tin roof, and thunder rolled across the lake in distant echoes. I lie awake in my bunk listening to the racket, the steady patter of rain, the occasional crack of lightning, the low hum of the wind. The quilt was heavy and warm around me, and for a moment I thought of David's words. Then exhaustion took me and I drifted off. I woke with a start. It wasn't thunder that pulled me up. It was David calling my name, loud and urgent. "Hey," he yelled, panicked and distant sounding. My heart leapt in my chest. I fumbled for the flashlight on my bedside table and swung it around. The lantern was still lit, casting long shadows in the cabin. I sprang out of bed and ran toward the sound. David's door was open and empty. I stumbled into the kitchen just as my flashlight landed on the radio. It had switched itself on, the dial glowing a strange green in the darkness. Static hissed through the speaker, and underneath, I thought I heard David's voice, quiet and pleading. "Please, help." My hand shook as I slammed the radio off, plunging the room into silence, broken only by the storm outside. I dashed back through the living room to David's quarters. His cot was empty, the pillows still warm. Panic twisted my gut. Across the room, a window was open. Rain was blowing in. I ran to the back door. It was ajar. Cold air and rain poured in. Muddy footprints marked the wooden porch. The wind howled through the doorway like a ghost. Frantic, I threw on my rain jacket, grabbed the flashlight, and bolted out into the storm. The night was split by lightning, the trail slick with rain. The air was electric, heavy with the scent of ozone and wet earth. I followed the footprints through the woods, calling David's name. "David!" But my voice was lost in the thunder. The trail curved toward the old dock at the lake's edge. Each time lightning flashed, I ran faster, branches whipping past me. Finally, I burst onto the dock. Rainwater pooled on the wood planks, soaking my boots. Lightning split the sky. In that brief flash, I saw a figure at the very end of the dock, waving at me. It was David. Or it looked like him, wearing a pale raincoat. He raised one hand as if he screamed and charged ahead, but another bolt of lightning whitewashed the night. When I could see again, the figure was gone. I fell to my knees, coughing on the cold air. Shaking, I called out his name, but only my echo answered me. The dock was empty, except for my frantic footprints leading to the water's edge. The lake was black and still, reflecting nothing but lightning shards. Morning light was finding its way through the pines when I stumbled back to the station. The search teams had already arrived, radios crackling with orders. Rangers combed the trails, volunteers scanned the shore, dogs sniffed every bush. I stood wrapped in a wet blanket, answering their questions in a fog of panic. By noon, there was no sign of David. No struggle, just the faint echo of his name carried off on the wind. In the days afterward, the station was eerily quiet. I sat by the radio, half hoping to hear David's voice crackling through the static. But each night brought only silence and the distant rumble of thunder. Sometimes I thought I heard faint drips on the roof late at night, like tiny tears. When I rushed outside, the storm had already moved on. Years have passed, but I never left Deep Pines. I still patrol these trails and keep this lonely station running. Sometimes, when the night is deep and the lake is still, I think I catch sight of a pale figure standing at the edge of the dock. But when I blink, or a wind stirs the trees, it's always gone. And every now and then, when the storm clouds gather, I swear I catch a faint whisper on the radio, as if someone is trying to say my name. I don't know if it's David, or just the wind in the pines. All I know is I still listen, and sometimes, late at night, I whisper back, "I'm here, David. I'm listening." Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening to my story. Please like, comment, and subscribe to hear more.